coffee has been getting sweeter and sweeter and sweeter to the point that baristas around the country are calling our morning drinks diabetes in a cup. Now, nothing wrong with a little sweet treat, but what happens when we're talking about a daily habit? What happens when we're talking about something that you chug before 9 a.m.? Well, it turns out that sweet drinks might be one of the worst things you can consume for your health, with one researcher calling them the plague of the world. Yeah, I found a lot of really interesting stuff to show you guys today. So today we're discussing the diabetes in a cup trend, not my words, the fact that sugar-sweetened beverages are one of the worst things you can consume for your health, the death of black coffee, and the surprisingly insane benefits of pure black coffee. Also, I want to say up front that I am not trying to shame you for your sweet coffees, just trying to give you entertaining health information and you can do with it as you please. And also, there is a huge difference between a daily habit and a once in a while treat, as you'll see. But first, while we're on the topic of daily beverages, it's time to talk about water, thanks to today's sponsor, Cove Pure, a countertop reverse osmosis purifier that gives you pure, great tasting water on demand. The truth is, your tap water might not be all that healthy. I used to live near a landfill and my tap water was questionable. There were concerns about leachate contamination. You could literally smell it in the air, and it made me wonder what was getting into my water. When I looked it up, it was bad. PFAS and other forever chemicals, lead, arsenic, microplastics, all linked to hormone disruption, neurological issues, cancer, and even weight gain. It's a growing problem. More than 70 million Americans have PFAS in their water. Basically, all tap water is not equal, and mine definitely was not. So I bought bottled water, which has its own problems. I even had an office water cooler, but the jugs were a complete nightmare. Eventually, I was distilling my water and then adding minerals back in, but it was a lot of work. Turns out that getting clean water is hard, but that is where Cove Pure changes the game. Cove Pure is a countertop reverse osmosis system that makes pure water simple. Just fill it with tap water and then almost instantly you have clean, pure, smooth, great tasting water. It's completely plug and play, no plumbing, no drilling, and you can get cold, warm, or hot water instantly. It uses 4 stages of filtration, including a reverse osmosis membrane. Most pitcher filters have a 1 micron pore size. Cove Pure's is 0.0001 microns, lab certified to remove over 99% of forever chemicals and thousands of other contaminants. Then in stage 4, it runs your water through an alkaline filter to restore minerals and raise the pH, a key step for balanced, great tasting water. I mostly use the removable pitcher. Fill my bottle, it refills itself, done. It's efficient, convenient, it looks great, and makes pure water effortless and easily accessible. I'm not into stressing about what's in my water or in my food, but I am into doing what I can. And with Cove Pure, it's never been easier to get clean, pure water on demand. If you're interested in upgrading your water quality, check out Cove Pure. Go to covepure.com/Kiana for $200 off the Cove Pure CP16. Thanks to Cove Pure for sponsoring today's video. On April 24th, 2016, a man pulled up to a Starbucks drive-thru as he usually did, with plans of picking up his morning drink. Only this time, he was met with a surprise.
"Diabetes, here I come," was printed in capital letters on his grande white mocha.
I just feel like as the barista, were you trying to get fired? What was the thought process here? But listen, okay, that was 10 years ago now. Coffee drinks have evolved an awful lot since the white mocha days, and this becomes very obvious if you've ever seen any of those videos of baristas making coffee orders on social media. I think these videos started going viral about a year ago, and it's pretty interesting to see what people order. But yeah, if you do watch a few of these videos, you really cannot help but notice a trend. Now, maybe you're thinking, that one has to be a joke, okay? That one is rage bait for views. And I agree, I like sweetness, but that one is literally crunchy at the bottom. The only way a drink like that is seriously gonna be palatable to you is if you've absolutely cooked your taste buds. Like, that is a tolerance that you've built over time. But yeah, even if that particular video is fake, it is true that over the last few years, sugary drinks have gotten so out of control that baristas have been calling out a phenomenon they are seriously calling diabetes in a cup. That's what they're calling it.
Y'all don't know gluttony till you work at Starbucks. There are people who come in every single day, get 15 pumps of vanilla, extra vanilla sweet cream, extra heavy cream in one drink, and then you have the nerve to get a Trenta.
Somehow even Google's AI knows that this is a thing. Diabetes in a cup is a phrase describing a sugary, creamy coffee drink so packed with sugar, syrups, and high-calorie creamers that it's considered a major contributor to high blood sugar and is particularly harmful for people with diabetes. When you look around, you see that there are tons of posts by different baristas around the internet discussing the insane amounts of sugar people are putting in their coffee these days. McDonald's, diabetes in a cup, USA. Ladies and gents, I present Diabetes in a Cup. Little Dunkin' Donuts, diabetes in a cup. Starbucks, McDonald's, you get the point. But let's actually read one out from Starbucks because I feel like it actually does a good job summing the situation up. The amount of sugar people are consuming is insane, like absolutely insane. I've had multiple customers come in and tell me they are pre-diabetic and can't get their favorite drink anymore. I never thought I would hear that multiple times. A lot of these customers are in their 30s to 40s and would otherwise seem healthy. They talk about coming to get their Starbucks after a workout and everything. Even the Oleato's supposed health benefits, the Oleato was a olive oil based Starbucks drink. Even the Oleato's supposed health benefits are completely negated by adding it to a 6 pump of sugar, venti, whatever. Some people wake up at 6 a.m. to order a Frappuccino. I know it's their coffee and they like it how they like it, but it's just such a sad situation and it's making me depressed knowing that I'm serving diabetes in a cup. I feel like I'm starting to get uncomfortable with the amount of times I'm saying the word diabetes. But there is actually a connection between sugary drinks and real diabetes that we'll discuss later on. But yeah, overall, this phenomenon is real. When you look around, there's been this real rise in extreme coffee drinks over the last few years. As an example, I give you Exhibit A, the Ice Spice Munchkins drink. This drink is a collaboration between Ice Spice and Dunkin' Donuts that came out in fall 2023. It is not only a blended frozen coffee drink with whipped cream and like syrups, but it also quite literally has blended up donut holes in it, as in you're drinking donuts. Also, little Canadian side note, here in Canada, Tim Hortons has a complete monopoly over those little things, like in terms of what they're called. We call them here Timbits. And I actually think that's the only place I've ever seen them. But yeah, this drink, it has not only just one blended up donut hole, but man, you're crazy today. What are you up to? Maybe I should zap them. But yeah, this drink has not just one, but the large actually has 4 blended up donut holes in it. I feel like that is just so unnecessary to the point of not even being enjoyable. What happens when you like get a donut wet? Nothing good. It's gonna be like soggy, it's gonna be like clumpy. It's just like so unnecessarily obesogenic to the point of not even being enjoyable. And again, I'm telling you guys, I like sweetness. Sweetness is like my Achilles heel. I gave up fast food, no problem. I never crave a chip anymore, nothing like that. But sweetness will be the death of me. But yeah, this is how the Ice Spice Munchkins drink is made. This is an image I'm assuming is a guide for Dunkin' Donuts workers. I think that's correct. So we have a heaping cup of ice, water, that's good. Liquid cane sugar, looks to be a decent amount of it, 4 pumps. Cream, depending on how much you want, I guess. Coffee, syrup, and if we look around here, we see that's the only coffee in here. So this drink actually doesn't have real coffee. It has coffee syrup. Then we have the pumpkin munchkins, 2 for a small, 3 for a medium, or 4 for a large. Caramel drizzle in the cup, whipped cream, and caramel drizzle again. And this drink comes out to a whopping 830 calories. Now the drink is discontinued, so I couldn't find the rest of the nutrition information, so I don't know exactly how much sugar's in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and guess that it is a lot. Because if we take a look at the rest of Dunkin's drinks, not only do they have a lot of sugar, but there is a lot going on overall. Let's take a look. This is their most recent nutrition PDF. So first on here, we have the pumpkin cold brew with sweet cold foam. Medium, 240 calories. Okay, so far, not bad. It's a treat, it's a fall vibe. You get it while you do your apple picking or your haunted house, or it's just like a crisp fall day. At 240 calories, it's really not a big deal. Anybody can make that work. in their lives as a treat. But as we can see here, it does have 41 grams of added sugar, which is definitely a lot of added sugar and in liquid form, which we'll talk about later. But then we go down to the very next thing on the list, the cereal and milk culotta. This thing is 890 calories for a large or 670 calories for a medium. Now, this is a very high calorie drink, almost 3 times the calories of the first drink. And it has 126 grams of added sugar in the medium. That is more than 3 times the entire daily added sugar limit recommended by the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association and the dietary guidelines for Americans in one drink. And also, to put this into context, okay, that is more sugar than any one single cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory. When I first read this, it was actually blowing my mind. Look at this, okay? Let's look at this. The fresh strawberry cheesecake has 55 grams of sugar. The toasted marshmallow s'mores galore has 102 grams of sugar. The dulce de leche caramel cheesecake has 83 grams of sugar. Meanwhile, okay, at Dunkin's just getting started. Let's look at this. The candy bar frozen coffee, 1,060 calories in a large with another 126 grams of sugar. The pumpkin frozen coffee, large, 1,000 calories, 144 grams of sugar. The triple mocha frozen coffee, large, 1,100 calories, 159 grams of sugar. The triple mocha frozen coffee, medium, 840, 122 grams of sugar. This is just their fall lineup, okay? The fact that all of these drinks have substantially more added sugar than the cheesecakes at the Cheesecake Factory, any one single cheesecake. Have you ever seen these cheesecakes? They're like literally known for being like very decadent and high calorie. And Dunkin', a thing you're supposed to consume maybe on your way to work, is putting them to shame sugar-wise. And to be fair, we were just reading out the really sugary, high-calorie ones. If you wanted to make a healthy choice, you absolutely could. There were tons of lower sugar options there as well. But if you weren't paying attention and you didn't know and you just ordered like a little pumpkin coffee thing that you thought sounded best to you, you'd be hit with 1,000 calories in one shot and a massive sugar load. And it really isn't that obvious either which drinks are like the really high calorie, really high sugar ones. Obviously, there are clues, but not all the time. You go to their website and you look at their base level frozen coffee, okay, which I assume is going to be ordered by someone at Dunkin' who's maybe trying to be a little healthier, or they just like it a little more plain. This thing has no extra flavorings or syrups or pumps or swirls in it. It's still 410 calories in a medium, which is a lot for a relatively plain coffee drink, or a coffee drink that at least seems to be plain. And again, a whopping 77 grams of sugar. I also wondered why it called itself an energizing spin on your morning coffee, because typically the whole thing about coffee is that it's energizing. But look at this. This drink also has more than 3 times the amount of caffeine in a Red Bull. Dunkin' is like literally a menace to society at this point. And honestly, I have to give it to Starbucks here because I actually couldn't find one drink on their menu over 1,000 calories. I'm sure you could customize and get it there, but they don't actually sell anything base model 1,000 calories. Meanwhile, Dunkin' has multiple. It's insane. It's giving Pawnee's soda problem.
Paunchburger just recently came out with a new 128-ounce option. Most people call it a gallon, but they call it the regular.
It's not my place to speak for the consumer, but everyone should buy it.
And when I was researching this video, I discovered that the top source of excess sugar consumption in the USA is sugar-sweetened beverages, like these sweet coffee drinks. And I mean, when you take one look at these coffee drinks, it clearly makes sense why. Now, in this case, we have been talking about the most extreme drinks available. We've been talking about the diabetes in a cup type drinks. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that most people are not taking their morning coffee like this. Some people get these as a treat, they're not the morning coffee order. There are probably some outliers, but I think that these drinks are mostly, a little more rare. But as I kept working on this video, I learned that coffee really has been going through a major transition lately. Even regular coffee orders have suddenly become way sweeter than ever before. And from what I can tell, it all started with the death of black coffee. Now, for a long time, drinking hot black coffee was considered to be the only acceptable way to drink coffee. And what I mean by that is, if you drank your coffee any other way, at some point, someone would inevitably comment something like this: "You shouldn't say you like coffee coffee if you don't like your coffee black. I constantly see people claiming to love coffee, yet they always drink their coffee with a bunch of milk, sugar, and all kinds of weird stuff like caramel. Actually, my favorite place to get coffee in Toronto is run by a man who is, I say this very nicely, the biggest coffee snob I have ever met. I seriously mean that in the nicest way possible. The man knows everything you could possibly ever know about coffee, and his coffee is the best coffee I've ever tasted in my entire life. He has beans from like the tops of very specific mountains, and he sells Kopi Luwak, aka that coffee that comes from a small animal eating the coffee berry and then like pooping it out. This guy takes max pride in all his beans and his brews, but if you specifically order a coffee at his shop and you try to add sweetener, he won't actually say anything rude to you, but he is 100% judging you hard. You'll be like, can I have a sweetener? And he'll be like, just taste it. Just taste it. Taste it the way it is first. And then you'll be like, I like black iced coffee, no problem. It's very tasty. I do not like hot black coffee. I need a little cream, just a little splash of cream. I need just a little splash of sweetness, and then I'm happy. But yeah, this kind of attitude was typical of what was called the third wave of coffee. There was truly a hipster attitude to the whole thing. It was all about like the quality of the bean and the roasting method and doing pour overs. And during this third wave of coffee, taking your coffee black was an absolute badge of honor. It's not that people didn't take cream or sugar or milk. It's just that black coffee was the aspiration to which we all aspired. And the whole idea was that there was this one true way to take your coffee, and that way was black. Except guess what? When researching this video, I found out that that's actually total BS, and coffee and sugar actually go way back. By the time coffee hit Europe in the 1600s and became this like huge trend almost immediately, people were immediately adding sugar to their drinks. And monks drinking it back in the day before that, they were adding sugar too. So yeah, as coffee grew as a habit, sugar was always right along there with it. Apparently Voltaire, the writer slash philosopher, would drink up to 40 cups of coffee a day, laced with both chocolate and sometimes extra sugar. But anyway, my point with all this has just been to say that coffee and sugar, they do go together. This isn't a new thing. It's not a weird thing. And now you know that if someone tells you that the only way to drink coffee is black, history says otherwise. But here's the thing. Up until now, we have been drinking coffee with sugar, not sugar with coffee. But that is changing, and changing fast. According to this coffee industry magazine called Coffee Intelligence, thanks to millennials and Gen Z, quote, coffee serves merely as an ingredient rather than the star of the show in today's coffee drinks. The article then goes on to say that coffee isn't even the base of the drinks we're calling coffee these days. Coffee is no longer the star of the show. What is the star of the show? It's sugar. We don't like coffee anymore. We like caffeine plus sugar. We like syrups. We like sweet creamers. Move over, coffee. You're just an ingredient in coffee now. And if you look around on social media at some of the cute coffees people are making, some people still brew their espresso with like a fancy machine. But a lot of people are like, nah, I don't care about that. Give me that instant coffee. Okay, I'm here for the syrups. It does not matter to me if the coffee is even passable, because it's just a flavorant and caffeine source within this diabolical drink I'm making. Yeah, there's this whole trend now of people making their own coffees at home. Really customizable, sweet, sometimes very fancy drinks, very aesthetically pleasing, a whole cute little ritual that they're doing at home. But the problem is really not a one-off drink that you make for yourself on the weekend. It's this whole broader trend. For example, one thing I found was that the most popular drink at Starbucks, it's no longer a cup of coffee. You'd probably think it would be like a cup of coffee, right? Or even maybe a plain latte or a cappuccino. No, the most popular drink at Starbucks is the caramel macchiato. That is the #1 drink according to Starbucks' own stats. Actually, I would have thought that the iced coffee would have been the #1 drink. So if you think about it, you're supposed to customize the iced coffee, you add whatever you want. So you would think that the base iced coffee would be #1. But nope, across all Starbucks stores, it's a sweet treat. It's the caramel macchiato. Now, a caramel macchiato is basically a latte with espresso and milk, but also 3 pumps of a vanilla syrup and a caramel drizzle. And a medium-sized one has 250 calories and 33 grams of sugar. It doesn't say specifically how much added sugar, which is the more important number, but because milk also has sugar, let's assume that there is 21 grams of added sugar in the drink. Now, 21 grams of added sugar is a fair amount, but it's not insane either, especially after discussing what Dunkin had going on. But 21 grams is about the same as a chocolate bar or 2 Krispy Kreme donuts or half a can of Coke. So it's a treat. not a big deal. But if you're not aware of this and it's your daily order, being that this is the most popular drink, it is tacking quite a bit of extra sugar onto your day that you might not have ever even thought about. And the thing is, if you watch a few videos of baristas doing their morning shifts and you see a few orders back to back, you begin to realize that caramel is a very, very popular in coffee these days. Which caramel, if you didn't know, is quite literally like melted sugar. It's quote unquote caramelized sugar, and sometimes butter and cream depending on what type of caramel you're making. Let's take a look at this 5 a.m. morning rush video at Starbucks. Okay, we got 2 caramel crunch frappuccinos, I think. Another caramel crunch, lots of whipped cream, a tropical citrus energy drink, brown sugar shaken espresso, iced white mocha, not sure what that means about the foam, and strawberry acai lemonade. So yeah, kind of crazy because nobody got coffee. And this is just one video, but this is what people were ordering at 5 a.m. And if you watch a few other videos, you see like this is how it goes. But yeah, this is what the orders look like at 5 a.m. People are ordering desserts as coffees before they even start their day. And again, these drinks, not a big deal as a little treat. What happens when your morning coffee is literally equivalent to drinking multiple Krispy Kreme donuts and you don't even realize? Well, it turns out there is a lot of science on this phenomenon and it is actually really bad. I'm not even just saying that either. Going into this, I knew that liquid sugar was uniquely bad for you, but I did not realize how serious it actually was. So all of these drinks that we've been discussing today are what's called in science a sugar sweetened beverage, or SSB. A sugar sweetened beverage is any drink that has added sugar, and not just a teaspoon, but a substantial amount of added sugar. So if you're adding just a little bit, like a teaspoon or 2 of added sugar to your morning coffee, that's not what we're talking about. The classic SSB was for the longest time soda. Soda was by far the #1 sugar sweetened beverage for forever. But over the last 10 years or so, soda consumption has actually been in a major decline. However, as the amount of sugary sodas we're consuming has gone down, other sugary beverages have just popped up in its place, such as the super sugary sweet coffee drink. And this isn't good because it turns out that drinking your sugar is uniquely problematic to health. According to a meta-analysis published just this year that analyzed data from over 500,000 people worldwide, drinking your sugar is way more problematic for your health than eating it is. So sugar sweetened beverages, whichever they may be, sugary coffees, sodas, energy drinks, these were way, way worse than eating cakes, candies, chocolate bars. How much worse? Well, interestingly, sugar consumed through beverages was consistently linked to a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Meanwhile, other sugar sources showed no such link, and in some cases were even associated with a lower risk. So I wouldn't go run out and eat 10 cakes, but in this case, these researchers are saying that they're surprised to find that in their research, sugary food was for some reason not associated with increased diabetes risk. Sugar sweetened beverages, on the other hand, definitely were. With each additional 12-ounce serving of sugar sweetened beverages, i.e. soft drinks, energy drinks, and sports drinks per day, the risk for developing type 2 diabetes increased by 25%. This strong relationship showed that the increased risk began from the very first daily serving with no minimum threshold below which intake appeared to be safe. So even one sugary drink in a day consistently makes your risk of diabetes jump noticeably. And the risks keep climbing as you add more servings. And like a monster Dunkin Donuts style drink, that is going to count as way more than one serving. While a more modest drink is just going to count as just one. So even though it sounds like a joke, I guess that these drinks seriously were diabetes in a cup. Probably the best thing you can do to reduce your diabetes risk, or if you're concerned about diabetes, is just to not drink sugar sweetened beverages. And yeah, like I said, going into this, I knew sugar sweetened beverages were unhealthy. I had no idea that they were this bad. They were truly this uniquely unhealthy thing. But in January, researchers at Tufts University published a study revealing that 2.2 million new cases of type 2 diabetes and 1.2 million new cases of cardiovascular disease occur each year globally due to consumption of sugar sweetened beverages. And Barry Popkin, one of the most respected researchers in the nutrition space, he actually called SSBs the plague of the globe in a paper that was also titled "Sugary Beverages Represent a Threat to Global Health." So yeah, sugary coffee drinks are not your friend. According to the science, here are the main issues with sugar sweetened beverages. They directly promote weight gain and higher BMI. They carry an elevated risk of coronary heart disease and stroke. They're associated with hypertension, non-alcoholic fatty fatty liver disease, gout, and chronic kidney disease. And they are uniquely dangerous for diabetes risk. So yeah, cutting sugary coffee drinks and any other SSBs you've been consuming, super easy way to improve your health. Who knew that these drinks were so uniquely awful for us? Like, I knew soda was bad. I knew 1,000 calorie super sugary coffee drinks were bad. I didn't know we were talking about plague of the globe bad. And you know what else is really interesting that I came across while researching this video? Sugary coffee, terrible for your health, right? Black coffee, potentially like insanely amazing for your health. But adding more than half a teaspoon of sugar or 1 tablespoon of cream canceled out the effects. Here are some clips of Rhonda Patrick talking about what it is about coffee and our bodies that makes it so good for us.
Science increasingly demonstrates that coffee actively slows biological aging. It protects cells from damage and helps the body adapt to stress, effectively slowing down aging at the cellular level. Coffee does not increase your cancer risk. In fact, it probably reduces it, particularly for certain major cancers, including liver cancer, endometrial cancer, and skin cancer. Coffee doesn't just have antioxidant properties. It actively reduces DNA damage. This is one of the fundamental triggers of cancer. There is an important nuance when it comes to coffee's health benefits, such as the cancer protective effects. Brewing method does matter. Most studies show clear cancer protection involved filtered coffee. Boiled or unfiltered methods like the French press or espresso allow oily compounds called diterpenes to enter our cup of coffee. At higher consumption levels, these diterpenes have been associated with slightly elevated risks of certain cancers, such as pancreatic cancer and respiratory tract cancers.
Kind of crazy, right? She actually has quite a few videos about the health benefits of coffee if you're interested. I'll put some links in the description. Now, I feel like despite everything we talked about today, most people are probably going to continue drinking their sweet coffee drinks. So I'm going to leave on screen just a few tips if you are going to keep doing it, to do it a little healthier. And have you seen my Biggest Loser video? I feel like you might enjoy that. There's a fun montage of my favorite person of all time. Very heartwarming stuff. I also put out a video recently that you might have missed about this crazy UNICEF report about how childhood obesity is taking over the world, even in countries that we typically associate with starvation. You can click here or here to watch one of those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.